Good. Welcome, everybody, to Protective Emergency Services Committee meeting, September 18th at 12 p.m., City Hall. We're going to call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Beck, second by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any? We see none. Approval of the previous draft minutes, August 28th, 2024. Moved by Your Worship, Mayor Brown. Second by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Okay, business arising from those minutes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do we have an opportunity to ask anything about the minutes?
Yes,
Yeah,
under number 5, Norman.
yeah, I would just, not to put deputy on this, I don't want to put the deputy on the spot here, but can we, I know she attended the conference sponsored by the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction. Is there any way we can get kind of a feedback report or just kind of a, I don't want to, and again, I don't want to put the deputy on the spot right here, but at some point in time, can we get a little bit of a synopsis of what was learned or
Deputy,
anything
would
like
we
that?
have to have that maybe at the next meeting?
Well,
Or what's good with you?
what's happening is the conference organizers are putting together all of our documents that we shared and we discussed into a package. So then, once I receive that, which should be soon, then I can share it with you, you can share it with committee, and then we can have a more frank and a fulsome discussion about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can tell you, it was.
No.
It was a very informative conference.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And it was focusing on municipalities similar size as ours. And it was, what everyone else is going through as well. And there was a lot of experts in the room to offer up what they were doing, best practice, what isn't working, what the future looks like. So as soon as I get all that together, then, yep.
Good.
Okay?
Are you okay with that, Councillor Beck?
Oh, it's perfect.
Yep, okay, thank you.
His worship
Just
wants
to follow
to-
up there, just to follow up, Councillor Beck, the deputy and I met with ASI, Atlantic Summer Institute. They have conferences every summer organized by Lyle Huggins' wife,
Carolyn.
Patty.
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Oh, Lyle Huggins' wife. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
and they want to follow up on some of their presentations over the last couple of years that deal with vulnerable populations.
Good.
So we were suggesting they go through strategic priorities.
Sure.
And that could be part of that report too, from Timmins.
Awesome.
So just on that, Mr. Chair, on page 3, dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly bylaw infractions.
Yes.
I just want to give notice that we have to make changes to our bylaw, the dangerous, hazardous, unsightly bylaw, and I think it's section 8.3 that we have to look at to allow police services, protective services, to issue tickets for unsightly, dangerous, and hazardous properties instead of going through council. So I just want to find out if we can put that in the queue to get work done and get it back to us.
Are we good with that?
Yeah.
What's
So
that?
we are in the process of doing that, and at our next, so we've gone through the initial consultative process where we sent out to fellow councillors to prioritize what the bylaw update prioritization should look like. And senior leadership took that. We're now going to be at a follow-up stage where at our next strategic priorities meeting where we will be looking at that. And through that, we will be determining which bylaws will be getting updated because it's one of many that have to get updated. So we'll see where that falls, but we have to give direction to our senior leadership team to say which ones are we tackling first.
Yeah, I think I've repeatedly given my priorities, the procurement bylaw, the unsightly bylaw, and then just at one of our last meetings, the EMO bylaw, because it hasn't been updated for many, many years. So those priorities have been on council's agenda for the last several years. So this, can we just make sure that that's up at the top of the queue?
Well, again, your worship, I think we have to follow through in due process and allow whatever to unfold. I may have my own priorities that I think are most important too.
Yeah.
It's great to have individual priorities, but we have to come to a collective decision in terms of what our priorities are going to be and give that message to our senior leadership team as to which ones are going to be addressed first.
And that'll be brought up at your next meeting, Councillor Beck, I presume.
It's on our agenda for
Okay,
the
let's
next
go with
meeting
that.
next week. So,
So we should
you
have
know,
a draft
I don't,
report.
I don't disagree with you. I mean,
Oh, no.
we've had how many discussions about this unsightly premises? Lots.
Yes,
So
for years.
there's no question that we want to address it. We have limited human resource power in order to address it. We're trying to, that's the purpose of that whole exercise, is to
Right.
try and establish a prioritization as to what will get done first.
Right.
And that, Mr. Chair, that would also apply to planning, development, and heritage
Everything.
on bylaws related to residents or developers building structures without permits. I understand that, but again, you've been here for 2 years. The deputy, Ramsey, and I have been here 6. We've been pushing this issue for the last 6 years. So just want to make sure that I will be at the next meeting for strategic priorities to make sure we get this going. Thank you.
Thank you for that, folks.
Chair?
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
If I could just build on what Councillor Beck said, it goes back to his committee, and then each of the appropriate bylaws that belong within the standing committees will go to those standing committees for those committees to recommend their priorities to go back to council.
yes.
Yep, and included in that will be the council's survey that will indicate what we had prioritized as a collective. So, yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted to add on that, yeah.
So that'll all be discussed at Councillor Beck's meeting. We sort of went off the track here. Okay, let's go to reports.
Sorry.
Oh.
Just one other thing. I know at our last meeting, we talked about the concerns with the vendors about the e-scooters and whatnot, and there was going to be a meeting convened.
There is a meeting booked for this Friday at the police station, myself, Dale Johnson, Sergeant Melissa Craswell, and the owner.
Okay,
So we are, and I will have an update for everybody after that.
perfect.
Is that
Thank you.
fair?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Now, can we go to reports and discussions? Number one, or A, operational report, Deputy Fire Chief Kent Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair, Your Worship. This report's inclusive from August 1st to August 31st. This will provide operational response information, fire prevention activities, and the council will receive this report as information. General fire inspections at this period included 6. Inspections with hazard compliance orders were 9. Plan reviews, permits, and consults were 10. Inspections closed were 3, fire investigations 3, and education sessions were 10. Total emergency number of calls were 88, with Station 1 with 51, Engine 1 with 10, and Station 2 at 34. Training, our fall training schedule began September 3rd with the power line safety presentation by Maritime Electric. Throughout the fall, our Monday evening training will also include motor vehicle extrication, confined space rescue, live fire training, as well as a specialized 20-hour aerial operated apparatus training event on the weekend of October 25th. As well, our Blue Card Incident Command training continues with a third group beginning later in the fall. Department activities, we'd like to acknowledge the retirement of career firefighter Tony Komsky, effective September 6th. Please join us in wishing Tony the very best in his retirement, and congratulations to Tony. We're very pleased to announce that James O'Connor will begin his position as fire inspector beginning October 1st, 2024. James brings many years of experience in construction and the fire service, where he is a valued volunteer member of the Charlottetown Fire Department. Please join us in wishing James the very best in his new position. We'd also like to look forward to interviews and filling the positions of platoon chiefs, relief firefighters, and we still have our campaign on for volunteer firefighters, which will end October 18th. During this period, fire prevention activities included the training of approximately 190 people in fire safety practices. The department is also involved in preparing for this coming weekend's Shellfish Festival and Farm Day in the city, along with the annual Charlottetown Fire Department Open House on the same day as Farm Day, October 6th, 2024. That concludes my report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. I know it's operational, but I'll ask the question anyway. The three positions you're filling, will they be full-time? Are they full-time or are they just, I'm just trying to understand how the operation works.
Yes, Chair. Platoon chiefs will be 2 full-time positions, and relief firefighters will be as call-in needed basis. And the third will be volunteer firefighters.
Just follow up on that, Mr.
Thank you
Chair.
for that. Go ahead, Your Worship.
So again, the platoon chiefs are 24 hours?
Your Worship, the platoon chiefs, right now, we have approval to hire 2, so we're thinking that to accommodate our operational needs, it may have to be on a 10-hour shift basis until we get a full complement of 4 platoon chiefs.
So just to clarify, there'll be 10 hours per shift?
Yes, that's undetermined at the moment, but it seems like a likely schedule for that position.
And I'm just trying to clarify, is it management or non-management?
It's management.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the Deputy Chief?
Yeah, just one.
Oh.
On the Farm Day in the city, we are planning to do that on Queen Street, correct?
Yes, Your Worship, I believe so. It's on Queen Street.
So the issue of the Queen Street Farmers Market moving down to the Confederation Landing Park, where the safety concerns, so there'll definitely be an increase in cost for addressing those issues for the Farm Day in the city, correct? And will that be billed to us, or will that be billed to, is it the province that will be over a sponsor to that event?
I'll take that, Your Worship, if you don't mind, through Chair to Your Worship. The task force that's been working on that consists of firing, police, public works, I believe, planning, and I think being coordinated by Director Michael Roos. That's working on all of the details for all of the behind the scenes of the market, but the market is planned for Queen Street this year. The two, between the normal Farm Day in the city, which is the October 6th event, and the normal farmers market, 2 different entities and 2 different scenarios altogether, but the task force is dealing with the infrastructure part of the Farm Day.
I appreciate that, Chief Mamie, but again, we're closing down a street that we made a decision as a council not to close down that street for the Sunday market, the Sunday farmers market, because of safety, fire, police concerns, but we're opening it'll be opening, we will be opening that street called Queen Street from Grafton, maybe down to, I'd say, Dorchester or King. So will it require additional police, fire, public works, service personnel, or equipment and materials?
Yes, once again, Your Worship, with that task force dealing with the back behind the infrastructure for that, we'd have to get some details from that committee or task force as it's working through that. But once again, as we've gone through several times in the lead up to removing the farmers market from the street, the one-of events that we can plan for on an annual basis and make the event or the entire area much more safe with the proper planning that goes into that is much easier to do for a one-of than it is for a consistent week after week, which is what we ran into with the Farm Day. But not to confuse the two issues, and ideally, because I'm not on that task force right now, can't speak to much of the details in regards to that, but we will be going forward and we'll have a better idea in the coming days.
Just last point here, Mr. Chair. I'm not confusing the 2 events. The fact is that we have to close down a public right-of-way from Grafton on Queen down to Dorchester or King, and that posed safety, fire, police, public works issues on closing on a weekly basis. So as I asked the Deputy Kent Mitchell, any additional costs for providing those additional services, who will pay the freight? Will it be us or will it be the province? Just trying to find out where that extra cost will go to.
And I wouldn't be able to answer that, Your Worship, and I know the deputy wouldn't be either, as he's not in part of that task force. I don't know if the CAO through Michael, who's not here,
Yeah.
potentially?
Yeah. Could we get someone to follow up with just a note to,
Your Worship,
to the committee members? Thank you.
Okay, we'll get that followed up and sent out to us, if you don't mind. Okay, any other questions for Deputy Chief? None? Chief? Tim Mamie, you're up next, I guess. One question, if we're doing the underwriters, maybe Eleanor can tone in on this. If he's given an update, is this still stay in open session, something like this? I was thinking that the other day. Now, if it's information that's not finalized, Your Worship, or is somebody, I don't know, if should it be in a closed session or what's people's feelings on it?
if I may, the information I'm able to share today, I think would be fair for an open session.
Okay.
As we go forward, I can detail more on that, and we can
Yeah.
discuss
No,
further.
I just didn't know, like, if there's certain details and, because they weren't finalized yet. Okay, you can go ahead, Chief, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as my report states, Charlottetown Fire contracted Opta to conduct a fire underwriter survey to receive updated city infrastructure information and determine the optimized number and location of fire stations for the city now and into the future by assessing our current and future building stock and the required fire flows, which means the amount of water required to fight a fire in those occupancies. As this was written, unfortunately, the lack of past and current city geographic information system, or GIS data, forced a delay in the collection of the data and required to complete the report by the original timeline. Our GIS personnel worked diligently collaborating with the contractors to infill and complete the required data entries, and this delay was further mitigated by the efforts of Charlottetown GIS staff and the Opta team, which worked around the clock, resulting in, I'm happy to say, a draft report delivered on September 13th, the afternoon of. So last Friday afternoon, I received the draft report of the fire underwriter survey. Since that time, I've been reviewing and shared with the CAO as well. My deputy, who's just gotten back from some time off, well-deserved time off, hasn't had a chance to review it as well. We're going through the document. It is just short of 200 pages, so it's a lengthy document detailing everything through the city from determining the optimized number of stations and their locations with some mapping, future projections on growth corridors within the city, taken from the official plan information that was shared with them, and also putting together all of the requirements in regards to required fire flows, our water distribution system, how that works, and everything else coordinated and involved with a fire underwriter survey. Very lengthy document. As I've been rolling through it, a number of recommendations that hopefully we're able to bring forward, and I'll set the timeline of our next month at committee meeting to bring forward a full review of the fire underwriter survey with some recommendations to all members of this committee as we move forward with recommendations from the operational staff. So just allowing some time here to review this first draft as we work out some of the kinks in there, clear out any misconceptions or misnoted information either from our side provided to the underwriters or from the underwriters with some misconceptions, clear up all of the issues or typos that may be existing in the first draft so that we can get a second draft and then eventually finalize, or perhaps finalize after the first, and be able to share with all members of committee so that we can bring forth the recommendations through committee to council. As stated in my report, which was written last Wednesday or Thursday to get in time for the package, that was before our report was received. But as far as details of the report, we would be unavailable to share those or any of the recommendations at this point until we fully understand some of them and get some feedback from the providers of the report as well, who we've been in communication with on last Friday. Willing to answer any questions that may be from the committee on that, Chair.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Given that we've been waiting for this for so long, how much time, Chair, will the staff need to review this? And I would like to ask of you that we have another meeting before next month. I mean, we've been waiting so long for this, like, to wait another month. I mean, maybe you could just let me know or let the committee know how much time staff needs to prepare something for us, because I came to this meeting today assuming that this is what we were doing today, and it's not the case, and completely understandable they need time. But anyways, if you can shed a little light on that, Chair, and when we can schedule another meeting.
Chief, we can do that, like, we can sit down, whatever's convenient. Do you have a time frame for this? Like, can you be over, through things in a week, 2 weeks, 6 days? I don't know.
Yes, it'll take a couple of weeks anyway, and as I mentioned, my deputy hasn't even had a chance until today to actually open the report to have a look at it, so it's going to take a little bit of time. It's much like any report that the city receives. When the first draft of the official plan came back, that wasn't shared with the all staff or all council at that time to have discussions on it, because it needed to be weeded down and picked through to determine what recommendations can be supported by staff and what recommendations didn't make sense for this particular time or area. This is no different from any of those other reports. We actually need to dissect it, get some information back and forth, and get some questions answered in regard to some of the recommendations so that we fully understand it, so we can bring it forward to committee to make a decision and make those recommendations to council as a whole.
Yeah, and I just pulled up my calendar, and like, this is what, the 18th today or 19th? If we can go the first week of October, which is 2 weeks, is everybody, if that's possible?
What would you like to see in 2 weeks, Chair?
Well, we'd like to have more and more information, I guess, and see where we're at, and like, would 2 weeks give you enough time for you and your deputy chief and CAO to go through? I don't know. As you said, it's a 200-page document, and I didn't see it yet, so I don't know.
Did taxpayers pay for this? Are we allowed to? I wouldn't mind reading the whole document. Maybe that's not allowed, but, yeah. What is the process for when we get these surveys done, like, or these reports? Are we allowed to see it all, or how does that work, Chair?
Eleanor? Like, does it,
CO,
like, does it go back to the committee, and then we review it?
Speaking from experience here, in my time here, we've done 2 or 3 reviews on our reviews. The normal process has been the draft comes in to staff to review, and to take from that what staff is looking to recommend through what they've asked of the actual providers of the report to committee. Much like any sort of staff report, it would have to come through committee for a full understanding there, where you would be able to read the full document and get your head around what the recommendations are and whether or not you're going to bring those forward to council. That's the normal process we followed for this in the past, and that was the expectation going forward. We put out this project and the work that was done so that we could bring forward a full recommendation of the growth for the department. I don't want to do that with missteps and having some information which may not be accurate, or recommendation that we're not in support of simply because we're not reading the tea leaves, not capable of producing within the next expected timeline in the report. So we don't want those to be on your plate when it's not something that staff is actually recommending through council, if that makes any sense. We want to bring forward everything that is positive and which is constructive to build forward for the fire safety of the community, and that's what we're looking to do. It's not a matter of disguising or hiding any of that information. It's about fine-tuning it so that that draft becomes a more official document that we can bring forward and share with the committee and council.
And I respect the process, and at the end of the day, I would make the time to read the document, so it's lengthy, but, I mean, I respect the chief and his due diligence and what he needs to do, but at the end of the day, I would like to read the report.
Yeah, just on that, I was listening to what, it sounds like what we're going to get after the chief has the time and the deputy have some time to digest it is it's like any report. You could get a report and it may be applicable or it may be totally out of whack with the realities of your municipality. So if I'm understanding it correctly, you guys would have time to go through it, delete, modify, add, whatever it might be from the original report. Because they're coming in and they're giving an original report of here's what we think Charlottetown needs. And then you guys are going to look at it and say, we think this makes sense in this context of the city of Charlottetown, is feasible within the context of the city of Charlottetown, and we probably should action. If I'm to paraphrase, maybe, if that's, am I correct in that? So, in light of that, I wouldn't mind seeing, I'm with the deputy, I'd kind of like to see the entirety of the project, but I will respect the process in terms of going through it with your lens and your professional lens and looking at it and saying, here's what we think makes sense. Here's what Opta, is that the company? Here's what Opta said, here's what we think. But I think it's important not to, I think what I don't want to get is a filtered report. You know, I'd like to get kind of a, I'd like to get the original unfiltered and then maybe whatever you're saying, we agree with this, or here's what they were saying, but we don't think this works, or whatever it might be. And that could be part of the discussion going forward because, you know, again, I don't understand everything totally, but if I read the report and kind of look at what Opta is saying and then kind of looking at it within our context, I think that could help us make the best decision as to what's the right path forward on this. So I guess I'd kind of like to see a bit of both, the original and the modified version, if you will.
Through Chair, Councillor Beck, a great idea and suggestion along that line, and I'm fully in support of that, so we can work out how to better bring that online. I'm away this Friday until next Wednesday evening for the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. They're up in Montreal this year. But I'll be reviewing, obviously, and back and forthing with the deputy at that point. But early in October, if we can schedule a quick meeting, maybe we can see exactly where we're at with that. We can go through sharing of the original document with the committee members here as we prepare our report for the next regularly scheduled committee meeting, which is middle of October. If we could line something up midterm, maybe we can do that or get it into your hands sooner. I'm fair with that. We have to be cognizant it's a confidential report. It's not a final report, so it's not to be shared at this point. It is what it is, which is the
So
initial
would the
finding.
committee like to have it, the original report earlier, and then, like, ASAP, as soon as the chief can give it to us? And then we can sort of review it on your own time, as he says, it's very confidential.
Yes.
And then we can meet, I'm going to say the 1st of October, and go over some things, and then we'll have it I don't know.
I'll only give my personal opinion here, but I'd kind of like to know what you guys, I'd kind of like to hear from them as to what they think is feasible, applicable in Charlottetown, and kind of go from there. And that can be kind of our next step as a committee in terms of digesting it. You know, it's 200 pages. It's not going to be a light reading, I don't think.
And some of it is rather dry for my chair, but that might give you a much better perspective on it.
I think so.
There'll be some information in there that makes little or no sense
Right.
in some aspects to you. So I think that would give you the best perspective on what we're bringing forward. And I'll not alter, and never would, any document. So this first draft is remaining the first draft. Any changes to that will be done by Opta through conversations with both of us and brought back as a second draft. That first still exists. There'll never be anything hidden or sheltered or...
So maybe, Chief, you can forward that to this committee, or however way you want to do it? Oh, sorry, Eleanor, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure there's a same understanding of what's going on here. So what I'm hearing is to be circulated is the draft that Tim has reviewed, that our in-house experts have reviewed, along with the recommendations of what they think is plausible or not plausible in this report, versus just sharing a report with no context. Internally, the staff need to be able to analyze it first, and then it's a package that's sent out.
But just to follow up what Councillor Beck has said, sorry, Mr. Chair, this draft is a report paid for by the city of Charlottetown. It's owned by the city of Charlottetown. And the draft will be given to us as committee members, as an unredacted report. It will be given to us, and their review can include a supplementary document to say, here are some of the review comments from our professionals in the fire services. And then we can get together and look maybe at the first week, the second week in October to review it as a committee. And personally, I think that some of the information in that document could warrant a closed meeting, because if it does require possibility of looking at other properties, that allows us to have a very fruitful, open discussion, because Section 119 and subsection 1A to H, I'm sure there is an area that we could find to keep it a closed item. But I think the chief made the point that it's a confidential document. It has to be, not shared with the public, not shared with other councillors. It's for this committee's eyes only until the proper due diligence review has been completed. But Chief, thank you for getting to this point. I know it's been difficult, but it's been difficult for us too, because the last council, we were up to the 11th hour and made a change in our decision on where we were going with the third station. So hopefully this new FUS will provide better light, great guidance going into the future. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Chief. So maybe if you can, what the committee asked for, maybe you can move that on to us, and so to give people some late night reading, and go from there. And then, as the mayor said, maybe the first week of October or something, we can sit around and we'll see both sides of the coin, and then we should be a little better prepared for our next meeting, the middle of October, I think. Is that okay with everybody? Sure. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Any other questions for the chief? Seeing none. Okay, we're going to go to police. Police Chief Brad McConnell.
Thank you, Chair. We have one report in our package regarding the purchase of night vision technology, which will be sole sourced. And the rest staff recommendation is that council approve the sole source purchase of 4 sets of night vision, including helmet mounts and laser for carbines, at a cost of $79,997.68. The cost and the needs assessment were outlined in this year's capital budget process, and the funds were approved in the 24-25 capital budget process.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions in the night vision? Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chief. So Rampart International is the sole source distributor of night vision devices, right? Night vision is the brand name, for lack of a better word?
No, it's a type of technology, but there's certain types of night vision that the team requires, that they are the sole source.
So are there other, I guess I'm just wondering, are there other companies that offer similar products other than, that function in the same way as night vision devices that are available to go out to, or is there something unique about night vision that we can only order through them? And I understand that Rampart is the only one because they're the sole source distributor. But are there other companies that offer a similar product that can give us the same end result we're looking for, rather than just dealing with that one company?
Well, it's my understanding, Councillor Beck, that the specs that were provided from the team regarding this were unique to this company, and that's for the certainly the integration of the night vision, integrating with the helmets that we have and the carbines that we have, and integrating that technology. So it's just not the night vision; it's how they work with our carbines, the types of mounts they have, and with our tactical helmets. So I think it's it's those combination of specs that make it unique to this company.
So because we started with them, we're kind of stuck with them. Is, is that kind of the way it is? Because so what you're saying is that we've already got existing infrastructure, and in order to be compatible with that existing infrastructure, we have to keep going back to the same company. And I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't seem to have any reservations about the company or anything, but is that kind of the case where we already have made the investment down certain roads, so now we have to try and find compatible pieces that go with our existing?
No, I just think
tools
that
that we
the market for this type of technology in Canada is very, very limited. And so when you have your equipment that you do have, that even limits the availability even further. So it's, so it's the specs combined with what we already have in a certain sense. The carbines were not purchased from Rampart, I don't believe. But certainly the devices that need to go on are unique to Rampart. So you have three different pieces here. You have the night vision goggles themselves. You have the mounts for the helmets, which are
Right.
probably very hard. Then you have the types of lasers that are mounted on our carbine rifles
Okay.
that work with this technology. And
Okay.
it's the specs for those are, I think, the combined specs are what makes it unique and sole source to this company.
So then going back to my original question, we don't really have another option available to us from another company that could,
That's
Make
my
it all
understanding,
work.
yes, yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just follow up on that?
Your worship?
So Chief McConnell and Chief Mamie, I think we have similar situations here. Because of the specialized equipment you're dealing with, there's a limited number of vendors for these products. But again, the procurement policy that we have now states clearly, anything over $25,000, it requires 3 bids. And we had this discussion, Councillor Beck, at our Standing Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Leisure on 2 tenders that the department amalgamated to make into one to give, and it was related to active transportation pathways out at J. Frank Macaulay Park. But the tenders that we voted on, or what we voted on in our budget, the capital budget in March, was separate tenders. And I remember the chair of the Parks, Recreation Standing Committee asked our director of Finance and Administration, is this all right? Like, are we all right to do it? Yeah, we're all right to do it. But again, I keep going back to the pressing need to get a procurement bylaw in place so that it gives us a better framework, that we don't, we're not being accused of sole sourcing and council voted for it. I just want to make sure that, just like Councillor Beck, there are other vendors out there, just like our fire equipment, they will tell us that we have other vendors out there. But in your view, this is what is compatible to what you already have in stock or with your police force, correct?
Yes, Your Worship, that's correct. And if it helps for council to understand, some of this equipment is available from other vendors, but Rampart was the lowest. When we did get the quotes, Rampart was still the lowest for those available pieces. But how they work together for the complete package is what makes them specific to this. So Rampart was the lowest price across the board anyway.
But we don't have that in our package. All we have in our package is the total cost, including tax, $79,997.68.
Because when we looked at it from a package perspective, they were the sole source that could provide that package together and with the specs that we required.
So again, Chief, I understand the process. It's like in our business with E.B. Brown's. There's only so many that make, fabricate, manufacture cranes, right? But if you get one product, you get to know it, and then it becomes part of your inventory. But the procurement policy that we have now, it says anything over 25,000. That's why with a procurement bylaw, we can put parameters in there to address these issues, because we're voting on it. This goes to a public meeting of council, and we have a public motion, a resolution that we have to vote. So in the end, we as council take responsibility for it from the professional advice and information that you gave us. But in the policy, anything over 25,000, you need 3 bidders. That's what it says.
Dana, could you give us some clarification, like, are we okay with this or not?
Sure. So just to clarify through the chair to your worship, so the procurement bylaw says that for purchases where the total cost is in excess of 25,000, public tenders shall be called unless it is deemed to be in the best interest of the city to do otherwise. And this would be one of those cases that the chief has made a strong case for sole sourcing, which is something that in a more robust procurement bylaw, the rationale for sole sourcing would be spelled out. So there would be situations where it would identify, reasons for sole sourcing and making a case to do that. And that's what we feel is the case here.
It's not a procurement, it's or a policy, it's not a bylaw yet. We're working on the bylaw, but
Yep.
again, it states anything over 25,000, but it doesn't give any, any definition to what is the reason to go sole source. That's why a procurement bylaw, in the case of protective services, where it's technical, it's very specialized equipment, that may be something we cover. But right now, the general public will say, did you go to public tender? And no, we went to sole source. Well, your policy says anything over 25,000. Yes, we can use that, the
Best interest
wording,
of the city.
the wording there, but that can apply to anything. So again, Chief, that new procurement bylaw is very important for all of us, not just council, elected officials, but the bureaucracy also. Thank you.
Yeah, and this would probably be brought up this coming Tuesday, I believe, a special meeting of council, if we move it on to council.
We can move it on.
Am I correct? So I'm just hoping that, we have the right words in there, if it is asked on the floor, right? That we have the proper answer. And because I don't want to be scratching my head and say, well, geez, I don't know, I thought we had to have three tenders too, but, okay, so we're all good with that?
Yeah, and this, just to the chair, the situation we ran into with the sport utility vehicles for the police fleet, the patrol cars, really in that case, we probably shouldn't have gone to an open RFP because we had an investment in assets that really predisposed us to buying something that was compatible with those, at least to use up that inventory. And then we would have been in a position to buy something, of larger value. It gets a little bit more complicated the higher value you go with a purchase, but any of our free trade agreements or the procurement agreements are well under the value of this purchase. So it clearly is something that we want to clarify and define more clearly in our new procurement bylaw, so that it's more directed and less subject to interpretation. But I think the important thing is that we're undertaking due diligence to ensure that as much as we can in any of these situations, ensure that the departments are getting the gear that they need to conduct their work, and that we're using, due diligence and being prudent with taxpayers' money to make sure that we're not spending more than we need to get good equipment for our staff.
Thank you for that. Councillor Beck?
Yeah. And I'm not questioning that there's none of that. It doesn't have anything to do with that. I just want to return, Chief, for a minute for the comment you made about earlier, and maybe you can help me understand, but you said that even at the end of the day, Rampart was still the lowest tender on what, but what did that, what bid was that, or what do you mean, what did you mean by that? Because we only have a one,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councillor Beck, I may have used the wrong terminology, but we did quote some of the components to this, just from other vendors, just to see part of that due diligence.
informal
Yeah,
quotes.
and Rampart was still by far the lowest quote. But again, it's the combination of the specs that, in this very specialized equipment, together in this package to make it work is what made it a necessity for sole source.
Okay. I'm good.
So, Mr. Chair, just to, again, Councillor Beck, follow up Councillor Beck. Okay, we understand that we have specialized equipment with some of our departments. We understand that we have a procurement policy that doesn't address these specifics. And we've been working on the procurement bylaw. So, again, the procurement bylaw doesn't have to be a fix-all in the first draft or the first template that we put up. It can be the beginning of other addendums or amendments that we make to it. That's why I keep saying, Chief, this only prevents these discussions coming up here because we're trying to ensure that we understand it. And if we go out to the public, if we're asked the questions, we can give an answer. But if you do not, if a councillor does not sit on this standing committee, he or she will only have to get it through the live stream. So if the procurement bylaw is very clear on the parameters on how we can outsource specialized, non-specialized equipment, and the SUV police vehicles with not, lessen the encumbrances against it, that's all the better, not just for the political side of the equation, but the operation side. That's the point I keep driving home. Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to move this on to council for approval. Moved by Councillor Beck, second by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. All in favor? 3-0. 3-0. Thank you very much. Here. I guess that's it, is it? Any other questions?
No, new business. I have been asked not to bring it up under the approval of the agenda, so new business. The parking forgiveness program for October and December, can I put that on the next agenda?
Yes, you may.
Also, the issue of just get an update on protective services, on the work they're doing in and around the Provincial Community Outreach Center. I think this is an issue that came to the forefront from, I think, the Birchwood Junior High School Home and School Association to allow students to have a freer flow between the school and Wendy,
Tim's Horton, yeah.
the Wendy's operation and Tim Hortons out there by the bridge. So again, this is something that I think is a good, this is good, serving as good ambassadors for not just for our clientele or what work is going on in the Community Outreach Center, but we're also trying to make sure that students, families can move freely throughout their neighborhood in that area. And I want to thank the department on reaching out and providing that protective services. So if I can just get that. And the last is, I know we talked about the e-scooter issue and the business permits, but there have been some businesses opening up around the city. For example, I think there's a mobile barber going around the streets. Do we have a clarification on what kind of operations or business permits they need to allow anyone to provide that service? So if you can just put that on for the next agenda, Mr. Chair, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I think everyone is writing down their notes for the notice of motion. And I have one too, Chief. Maybe it's been a couple of months since we did the accident program at the police station where people just go with that. Should we wait a little longer for an update on that, or would that be possible at our next meeting? To see how that program's working?
Certainly, we can provide some sort of status update on the Collision Reporting Center. Your worship, if I could just go back to your second request about the update on the outreach center, is there specific data that you're looking for in that update, or is it?
No, Chief, just to clarify it, the Birchwood Junior High School Home and School requested more police presence for their students going between the school and the outlets on Grafton Street East. And I've been told that our police services are providing that service, so it's not data. I just wanted an update on how what's the response is from students, from the home and school, from the staff, and from what I've heard, it's quite positive. So that serves the greater community, and I think that's what everyone's looking for. And if you can just, data is not required just to get I think Dale Johnson is part of that crew that is responsible to ensure that there's safety and security for students going through that area when going to the fast food outlets on Grafton Street East. Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship, and I may supplement that request. I'm actually, over the next couple of weeks, have already started the process of meeting with all our principals in our junior and senior high schools in the city, so I could probably provide some feedback on what I'm hearing from them also, so.
No, I appreciate that, Chief, and again, great police work in and around the area. I know that there's always issues, but we're on the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Any other questions? A motion to adjourn. Councillor Beck, Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Thank you very much, folks, for attending.